Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another installment of our EU book study. Sorry, just getting the windows set up here and everything. Let's see, make sure my YouTube audio is on and proper there. All right, so do have our 3 more chapters of Star Wars Shatterpoint to go through tonight. I know that last week was a shorter book study. This week's probably going to be even shorter than last week was, to be honest. We've only got the 3 chapters and some great things happen in them. It's a lot of really cool action scenes, but it's plot advancement isn't all that. So if you were reading the chapters, they're incredibly important chapters. We'll talk about some of the things that happens in them, of course, but it's very easy to kind of sum up the plot advancement or the action, So we'll get there. But let me go ahead and first go back to the StreamYard tab and welcome in my co-host for tonight. Welcome, Mr. Al Baca.
On time and awake.
I sent you the link a few minutes early. I thought, just in case he needs a little time to go, what?
Yeah, I was wide awake and waiting and ready and headphone on.
Yeah.
Do I sound okay?
Yeah, sound great. Coming through just fine.
I'm trying a new mic placement to avoid
cool.
the breath hitting it.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm doing it at eye level.
Oh, nice. Yeah, sound great. Sound good. I did, before we get into the chapter, well, let me welcome the chat first, and then we'll go through that. Welcome to Go Team Ghost Planet Forevermore. Great to see you there. My dear sweet Sound Engraver, of course, is here with us. Tom Spiegel. We got more people watching, but those are those who are showing up, at least for me so far, in the chat.
Hi, everyone.
So, got some Star Wars news that I thought was useful to bring up or just point out, which is really why I spend so much time on the EU on this channel. On the one hand, I was lucky enough not to get into it until Disney started killing Star Wars, and then it was like suddenly there's all of these books and audio dramas or video games and comics and everything. It's like, I've got plenty more Star Wars to partake of, and even Al is enjoying it, even though he's not as strict as I am about it. But we did find out today that Disney is now Disney's Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Obi-Wan Kenobi from the series, the Obi-Wan Kenobi in any of Disney's stories going forward, is bisexual. This is officially canon now. It's coming out in one of the prequel novels or whatever in the Disney canon. And I read that and I thought, even my insufferable sunshine of a co-host has to have an issue with that, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's it. No, we'll just leave it there. We're not going to go to any kind of consequences from it or anything. You would agree that that's a bad move.
Yes.
And it's clearly, as everything is now to virtue signal and whatnot. It's really ridiculous. It's in a prequel Padawan novel or something like that.
Yeah, it's called Padawan.
Padawan. Okay, you heard about it too then.
The Birdman sent me the link earlier, and some guy reading a section of it, and I was like, no. Nope. So I do want to point people again to the study we did of Kenobi, the John Jackson Miller book that was so epic, so wonderful. Mm-hmm. And there's even a in the sequel to that book, or the very next book in the continuity of the EU, the Vader, the Dark Lord, or whatever. What's it called? I forget the name of it right now. Dark Lord, the Rise of Darth Vader. There's a portion in that book where you actually see Kenobi realize that Anakin's still alive, Vader's still alive. It's pretty good. I'll probably do a little video on that passage at some point. But would that be a book study worthy to do one day?
It would, but it doesn't have a unabridged audio version for you.
Don't.
Otherwise, we'd have done it right after Kenobi. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a deal breaker for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not, I'm not saying I'll never. I mean, as long as there are options that are good to do and that do have full audio, which I know are easier for you, that's what I would like to, exhaust those first. But there are plenty that I do want to do that they don't have unabridged audios yet, but they are releasing, slowly but surely. I don't know how long they're going to keep doing it, but every year Disney is re-releasing their Legends collection or whatever. But whenever they do re-release an EU book as a Legends with this banner and everything, part and parcel of that is a audio version. So, right now they're doing the X-Wing Chronicles and all of that. Shatterpoint was one, although I think it already existed, the audio, unabridged audio, because it was one of the later ones. So yeah, the other piece of news, though, is that, and I'm pretty happy about this, the Knights of the Old Republic remake video game. I don't know if you heard about this, Al. It's pretty much on hold now, maybe indefinitely. And I didn't get to dig into the story too much more to get all the details, but I'm really happy about that because this was just destined to be a train wreck. It was already released, or it was already pretty much admitted to that this was not just a update of the original game. It was not a remake. It was a reimagining, and they were going to have all these different things happen in it, these different stories and stuff. And it's like, don't screw around with Revan, please. It's just, and luckily they're not now. Hopefully it's an indefinite hold. I didn't get to dig into the whole story. Did you hear anything about that?
No, but the video games don't really hit my radar.
Sure.
It's not part of what I do.
It would have been great back in the day to get somebody, maybe I'm blanking on so many names right now. It's been a long day. Where's the Reverend Drew Karpyshyn, who was the EU writer who was really responsible for a lot of the Knights of the Old Republic stories and whatnot. It would have been great if he had done a novelization of it for people who just don't play video games, or even for them to have done an animated film back in the day. That'd have been cool.
That's familiar. We've read a book of his, right?
Yeah, we've read Drew Karpyshyn. He did the what did we read by his? We read some stuff by Drew Karpyshyn. I'm just obviously the Bane trilogy. He read the Bane trilogy. I thought we read something else by him though. Oh no, it's just the stuff that I was reading. It wasn't something we did a book study on. But yeah, great writer.
The name sounded familiar. So.
Yeah. So for the actual content tonight, as I was saying, you and obviously Al, you've got the power to fill in if you want to. But I'm thinking is I'm going to go through and we're going to talk about what happens in each chapter. But again, it's so much action that it's like I don't want to sit there and explain the intricacies of each scene because it won't be as amazing as it would if you were just reading the action scenes. Right. I think the summary of it will be pretty quickly given, but we're going to do, to give it its due. But if I skip over anything that you want to read out loud or you want to, bring up, feel free to go ahead and do that. Just stop me. So as usual, but ready to dig on in then?
Yeah, because these Dokas sound frightening.
Yeah.
Because it always relates, because it's a orbital bombardment, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know you being a big fan of Babylon 5,
mm-hmm.
which I am as well, but I always think of what they call the mass drivers that the
Shadows.
No, the Centauri's used against the Narn.
Oh yeah. Okay.
They would take huge chunks of rock and just, just drive them into a planet.
Yeah.
But this is like a big, gigantic spear made of Dursteel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead and describe it, because this is the enemy ship. These are the Battle-wise ships. Because when we just left off last week, Carvaster and Mace were having the standoff at that kind of cliff there, and these were the caves that all of the Coronae were held up in, the civilian Coronae, the women, children, their grassers, and everything. And Mace came to the realization that
Colonel Gepton had been tracking his lightsaber to try to get to Depa. So now that he's got both Depa and his lightsaber there, all of these Dokal ships to the Baliwai are going to attack this mountain. So go ahead and describe the Dokals. Or what? So
First of all, I'm not good at metric. What's 200 kilograms?
There's a number involved in that, so I'm not going to be able to help you.
Well, 200 kilograms. Take it for what it is. I do not know metric.
Mm-hmm.
But these Dokals, which is short for Deorbiting Kinetic Anti-Emplacement Weapon, a hardened Durasteel Sphere, a blade of shielding, miniature ion drive, and tiny attitude thrusters, massed slightly more than 200 kilograms. But it's basically just a hunk of steel that is being driven into the ground at an amazing speed, and that and like I said, when they have it, the kinetic energy of it is just frightening because it's cracking the mountain basically, and they just are shooting one right after another down from wherever they're being launched from. But it's just just reading it, it's like just wreaking havoc and.
They're basically trying to bring the mountain and the caves down upon everyone who's in there.
And it's very well written. I mean, because as I was doing, I was like very uncomfortable. I was feeling, you know, almost like you're choking on the dust and you're being flung all over the place because basically the entire mountain is shaking. That's how much these things are affecting. The ground.
Yeah. So it's a sticky situation, as Mace said at the end of the chapter. You know, and Car's like, "We must fight," and Mace said, "Yeah, but not each other. You know, we got to fight these Dokals coming in there." And after they're trying to get away from it, but after this, initial bombardment, I do like this one scene. Car is trapped under some rubble, and Car Vaster, the Lord Pellic, the one that has been giving Mace so much trouble, and Mace is just like he's an evil guy, but not in the way like a Sith is evil.
I am trying to figure this guy out because just when you want to hate him, you kind of sort of feel for him. And it's almost like Mace is kind of, he's like trying to help him, then he's like fighting. I'm like, choose a lane, Mace. I mean, it's like, is this guy evil or what?
Well, we even with the chapters we got tonight, we don't fully see Mace's full plan yet. Mace is putting some things into work right now that we don't see fully realized even with the chapters tonight. So we'll see that, next week. But Car Vaster, as he said, he's dangerous. He's not evil like a Sith though, because he doesn't just want power for me. He's a survivalist, and he's gone kind of like he's gone naturalist to the detriment of any morality or any kind of soul, and that's the kind of enemy that he is. But in this moment, Mace is always trying to save the most amount of people as possible, and he realizes he needs Car Vaster's help, and he wouldn't just go out to try to kill Vaster anyway because he's a Jedi. He's not going to act out of vengeance. But I like this little scene because Vaster's on the ground. He's got this big slab of rock on him, and let's see, there's some gas. Oh, they pump the tunnels full of this gas too that'll just like eat up your inside, so they're having to cover themselves. Car, can you hear me? This is Mace. Even hoarse with dust and pain, Vaster's growl had a sardonic edge. Better stand back. When you're around, big hard things seem to fall on my head, which I think is funny. Mace breathed himself into his center and found the slab Shatterpoint. Don't move. His blade flared, bit in, and the slab cracked in two over Vaster's back. A shrug of Vaster's huge shoulders shifted the two pieces enough that he could push himself up to his knees between them. He was caked with dust and blood trickled from an ugly gash over one ear. You could have killed me. You should have. You're no good to me dead, Mace said. Is there a hard point in this base? A hardened bunker, preferably airtight? The heavy weapon lockup. It can be sealed. All right. Get all the non-ambulatory sick and wounded in there and seal it up. When the militia comes, they'll start with gas. Vaster and Nick exchanged grim looks. Mace glanced over his shoulder. Nick, you're with me. Let's go. We'll never hold them. Not for a day, not for an hour. This is Vaster saying that. We don't have to hold them ourselves. I have a medium cruiser in system that's carrying a regiment of the finest soldiers this galaxy has ever seen. Mace put one hand on Vaster's shoulder and the other on Nick's, and there was a strange shine to his dark eyes. We aren't going to hold them. We aren't even going to fight them. With the Halleck for air cover and the troopers holding the ground, those 20 landers can evacuate this entire place within hours. Grassers and all? Mace nodded. We just have to get them here. So these Dokals that I was describing, the Baloi ships are there. Now, here's the problem, though, as they find Mace is contacting the ship that he had in orbit here, with the clones and whatnot. He contacts them, but they're under bombardment themselves from droid ships, separatist droid ships. And Mace, for a second there, that's a kink in his problem. He's like, well, you can't just come here and help us evacuate then. But then he gets to thinking, and Nick actually helps him. Nick is saying, oh, stupid, or whatever. and Mace realizes, wait a minute. Yeah, that's it. Droids are stupid. Droids are stupid. So he says, he tells the commander on the ship, he said, because when they tried to drop the ships in before, the droids were just taking those drop ships out, because the drop ships don't have a lot of guns on them, obviously. So the droids are taking the drop ships out, and a lot of men were dying, falling to their death and so forth. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But so that's what's going to happen if they try to land troops in again or land transports in again. And Mace is saying, do it anyway. And he tells the commander, he said, these are your orders. And the commander's trying to say, well, yeah, but if this happens, this, and this, we're going to die. Mace just says, do you have so little to do right now that you have time to argue with me and question my orders? You have your order to do it, And it's an interesting aspect, because we're going to talk about what that clone trooper, we'll get his number here in a second. But so this is Mace's plan. He does ask Nick, he said, who is the best shooter that you know? And Nick's like, well, me. And he's like, well, besides you, and it's Chalk. It's the girl that was with them in the jungle, with Vesh and Lesh. And she can barely walk, but she's the best. So he said, go get her. And he's got this really cool plan. He gets Depa and everybody. And it's, I forgot even what chapter, because the chapters are kind of running into my mind a little bit. But we get a description of Mace's plan from the Dokkal's perspective, from the Baloi pilot's perspective. And they see this big Ancox, which was that armor-plated dinosaur-like thing that Depa was riding on before. This big Ancox come out, and instead it's got a gun mounted on it, and Vesh is on top of these armor plates. And in front of the big, Ancox, and it's got like a mace armored tail, and it can smash things with its tail. It's being led, by the Force, Vaster's around too. And in front of it, these two Jedi with this, just going crazy with their lightsabers, giving themselves over to Vapad. It's a pretty cool scene, Chalk, this wild woman, Coronai on top with the gun, and then the lightsabers, going nuts in there. They make their way, and they eventually. Oh, go ahead.
But I do want to say, like, before this all happens, it was amazing as I was reading this. He's like, just at the end of chapter 16, it's like, we're not going to evacuate, we're going to attack. Nick gaped. Attack, he echoed numbly. Not just attack. We're going to beat them, said the master, like a rented gong. It's like, you got to give it to Mace. He does look on the bright side. He is a very confident man.
Yeah, this is the thing, too, which makes me really see Mace as an aspirational hero, is that it's never time to despair. There's always a way to save lives. There's always a way to win. Maybe not in the way you want to win, maybe not to the extent that you want to win, but there's always a right thing to do, and that's the aspirational hero.
Yeah, he would pass the Kobayashi Maru.
Yeah, yeah. Give me 1 second. Get a little toasty here. I got a fan over there, but it's pointed the wrong way, so I want to point it over here. I'll be right back. I don't know. You can talk about another scene you like or whatever.
Talk about toasty. That's what I had for lunch, and a little toasted cheese.
Actually, I was curious. You can talk about this while I'm getting the fan. This doesn't take me a second, but what you think about the I'm blanking on his name, but the guy who reads it, the audio version. He does a great Mace Windu, but I like the way he reads the action, especially the way he deals with Nick. I like that Nick. You hear it in Samuel Jackson's voice almost.
Yeah, Nick is very much. Sometimes I like him. Well, I've gotten to the point now I like him. But it took a while for me to appreciate the certain way that he talks. And of course, I don't know how everybody else might hear it in their head. Plus, when I'm listening to it, I'm listening at 1.6 speed, so he does sound a little faster.
What's that?
he just does sound like this, if you put it in a modern terms, like a little street punk who has been taken under the wing of like a an older, smarter, I don't want to say street thug, but just it's almost like the big brother relationship now.
Yeah, yeah. And Nick he's kind of, Mace has spoken to the good that is in Nick. I should say, before he even gets Vaster and Chalk on everything on his side, he does have to appeal to their desire for revenge. And they're like, "Why should we trust you? Why should we listen to anything you say?" He's like, "Well, if you want to kill some Balawai, you come with me." And that's enough.
And that's what got Chalk.
Yeah.
Going, because she's there tending to Besh, isn't she?
Yeah, it's actually interesting.
He's messed up.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's an interesting juxtaposition between, we're talking about Mace wanting to save the most lives as possible, always thinking there's a way, never giving up hope. Sonic Beaver says he's like George Washington. Yeah, exactly. Because we're going through the Revolutionary War right now, history stuff, and yeah.
Maybe I thought George Washington was kind of a Debbie Downer a lot, though.
Oh, just always fighting for another day, always going for.
Yeah, well, that's fight to survive.
Tom Spiegel, I don't get this. He says maybe it's best Pruff not attend cons. He's the kind of guy who manhandles his fans. Oh, fans. I get it. Okay, I was like, who did I do? What did I do? Oh, fan. I get it.
But
okay. It took me a second. But no, yeah. So Mace is always trying to save the most lives as possible, but Vaster has run this place. So when he goes to try and find Chalk, they find out that Vaster has taken everybody who could be saved, and they get to go into the sanctuary, the sort of safe room. Everybody else who's pretty much probably going to die anyway, they just go get tossed into this other room that's like foul smelling, and this is where Chalk is. She can barely walk, but she's okay, somewhat. But she's dealing with Vesh, who the tissue binder that was used to bind up the wounds that Balawai child had stabbed them with. It didn't take too well on Vesh, and it got infested with like these worms and whatnot, and bacteria is eating his flesh away. And she's just kind of trying to soothe his pain as much as possible there. And Mace says, you need to trust me. And she said, I already trusted you, when she went down under in that thing. But the chance to kill Balawai.
But yeah, she's putting us like she would dip her rag into the bucket, brought it out again, sponged, and returned it to the bucket with numb mechanical persistence. Doing it to be doing something, but she showed no sign of hope that it might help.
We do get to, Mace is having to struggle about hope. You say hope there. Mace is having to argue for hope. He argues with it, to Nick, to Vaster. But we get this wonderful scene with Depa. We get a number of scenes with her. But this one where he's, let's see, is this too far ahead though? He sees her, she's kind of plucked the mark of wisdom off her forehead and everything like that. And she says, don't look at me. You can't look at me. You can't see me like this. He lowered himself to one knee beside her and reached a tentative hand for her shoulder. She clutched his fingers and pressed his hand in place, but turned her face away. I'm so sorry. Her head twitched, because he finally sees her again after she was trying to give him the slip. I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry things can't be different, better. I'm sorry I can't be better. But you can, he squeezed her shoulder. You can, Depa. You have to. I'm so lost, Mace. Her whisper could not be heard in the riot of the cavern, but Mace could feel her meaning, as though the force itself murmured in his ear. I'm so lost. The Depa of his hallucination had told him what? He remembered. It is in the darkest night, he said gently, that the light we are shines brightest. Yes, you always say that. But what do you know about dark? Her head. So we're seeing her the same kind of story that she's been going on. It's, things are so dark here. You don't understand. You have to be dark here to survive. Every horrible thing I'm doing, it's just, that's what you got to do, just trying to justify her actions and the actions of those around her. How does a blind man know the stars have gone out? But they haven't, Mace said. They still burn as bright as ever. As long as people live around them, they will need Jedi, like I need you now. I am not a Jedi anymore. I quit. I resign. I withdraw. I thought you understood that. I do understand it. I don't accept it. It's not up to you. He pulled his hand from her shoulder and rose, looming above her. Get up. She sighed, and once again a smile struggled onto her tear-streaked lips. I am not your Padawan now, Base. You can't order me. Get up. Reflexes burned into her by more than a decade of unquestioning obedience yanked her instinctively to her feet. She swayed dizzily and her mouth hung slack. Minutes from now, nearly 1,000 clone soldiers of the Republic will reach this position. New light kindled. So now she tells him about the the ship is coming in, and it's up to them. Mace has ordered them drop in, and if Mace doesn't do something to save them, then they'll just drop in to be slaughtered again and killed. So when Mace and the Ancox and everybody, they go out, he's going to end up capturing an enemy ship. And it's actually really cool written, the whole scene. I mean, they capture one ship, and then you got Depa standing on top of the ship with her lightsaber, and they're like slashing into other ships, and Nick is using the weapons system and everything. And basically the whole plan is, he said that droids are stupid. He gets 2 or 3 ships by now, control of them, firing on other droid ships, and the droids can't quite process this, and the best they can make out of it in the midst of a battle already going on, if it was just one ship firing on them, they could pretty much process that ship was rogue, shoot at it. But now that more than one ship is firing on them, they become sort of just like taking each other out. It's like self-survival or something like that. They can't process that. So he basically turns the whole droid ships upon themselves, which is what the clones are going to come into. And we do see a really cool, trying to find the part of it here where we get this clone trooper. Paradox for the agricultural chaff gun. Because the trooper in charge, the one that Mace was talking to, we get his interiority. When he was first trying to land the troop transports out there, he saw the droids taking the ships out, but then he saw his fellow troopers. He saw many of them falling through the sky. They would not give up, even as they're falling to their death. Some of them take the weapons they had on their holsters and were trying to shoot at the enemy ships. Others of them were like angling their bodies so that they would fall into the other ships. Anything they could do just to have one last parting blow. And he felt this great sense of pride. And it does talk about how, as a clone trooper is his programming basically is to obey, but he does feel this anger that Mace tells him, no, instead of attacking, instead of fighting back, go do this again, go drop more people there. It's the closest thing to anger, he could feel or whatever in that moment, because he wants that revenge. He wants to be able to honor his comrades, and he doesn't quite realize that Mace has got the plan here, but we're going to see that as we go along. Again, like I've got, if I'm skipping over anything you want to say, Al, feel free to. But eventually they get to a point where they drop into the Balawai base. They end up taking this big ship, a bigger ship. Carvaster and Depa have been there first to kind of clear the way. By the time Mace gets there with Nick, they look around, and Depa, giving herself over to the pod, has pretty much just slaughtered the whole room. Just slaughtered everybody. And Vaster's kind of proud of this moment. He tells Vace, you see, she belongs here. She's one of us. And there's a really great scene of some dialogue here. Corpses still set there, dead hands locked. Of course, the smell of fresh blood, ozone. Mace turned around, Carvaster staring at him fiercely triumphant. He growled simply, she belongs here. Mace silently turned away and climbed a half-open door to help Nick into the loop. So as they start talking to Depa, he felt Depa's eyes upon him, but he did not lift his head. You can say it if you like, she said after a moment. I don't mind. Keeping half his attention on the wide scan to watch the droid starfighters shoot down gunship after gunship, Mace turned the other half of his attention to the gunship's data logs, calling up flight plan codes, control codes, recognition codes. Really, Mace, it's all right, she said sadly, half blind with a migraine. Her breath coming a little short, she blinked dizzily through the remainder of the wide windscreen. I know what you're thinking. Mace said quietly. I don't believe you do. It's not that my way is the right way. I know it isn't. A soft, bitter laugh. I do know it, but it's the only way. The only way to what? To win, Mace. Is that what you call what you've done? Winning? She nodded exhaustedly out toward the dogfight that still raged above them. This battle is a masterpiece. Even after everything I have seen you accomplish, I could never have believed something like this if it hadn't seen it myself. You have gone to do a great thing today. Today's not over yet. And it's all for nothing. This is the Depa again. At this day's end, what will you have done? Destroyed most of the militia's air power? So what? Her voice was going hoarse, and her words became labored as though she could have the effort to push them through. You have bought us days, perhaps weeks, no more. When you're gone, we'll still be here. We'll still be dying in the jungle. The Balawai will get more gunships as they need, and we'll go back to killing them. But we have to make them fear the jungle, because that fear is our only weapon. Not today. What? What do you mean? I have decided, Mace said, still studying the sensor screens, that you've been right all along. Depa blinked in disbelief. I have? Yes, we use these people for our purposes. To abandon them now, when their only choice is to suffer genocide or to commit it. Mace shook his head grimly. That would be dark as any night in this jungle. Darker, that is, innocent savagery. It would be active evil, the way the Sith. There is fighting to be done. The Jedi cannot walk away. He's referring to the fact that Depa was originally sent to that planet to try to drum up a resistance to the separatist-controlled Balawai there. And once that was drummed up, they can't just leave them there to suffer the consequences of it, Mace is saying. And Depa's like, you're serious? You really mean it? You're going to walk away from the Clone War? You're going to stay here and fight? Mace shrugged, still watching the scan. I will stay here and fight. That doesn't mean walking away from the Clone War. Mace, the summertime war isn't something that can be resolved in weeks or months. I know that, he murmured distractedly. I don't have weeks or months to spare. The summertime war won't last that long. What? How can you say that? How long do you think it will last? My best guess? About 12 hours, maybe less.
Hey, Prof.
Yeah.
You've gone into a chapter that we hadn't read.
Oh man, I
was like going, I don't remember
so
any of this, and then boom, I'm like,
See,
I found where you were looking, and it was chapter 19.
It's so good. Well, I'm going to go ahead, and since I already started reading it and summing it up, I'm going to go. See, the thing is, it was such a short bit of reading that I just must have automatically read another chapter. So
I was like, I don't really remember.
It's a really good stopping point for tonight, though. So I want to keep going with it because I'm right here at the end of the scene, and it's a good stopping point. So he says that my best guess that the summertime war is going to end about 12 hours or less. She could only stare. Finally, he saw on the windscreen that what he'd been waiting for. The droid starfighters peeling away from the dogfight, streaking back up towards space. See that, he said, an opening, his hand toward the windscreen. Do you know what that means? Depa nodded. It means that someone figured out what we did. Yes, and that this someone has the control codes for those starfighters. He turned toward her now, and in his eye was a spark that on another man would have been a wide, fierce grin. I told you we don't have weeks or months to spare. I don't understand. What are you doing? What are you going to do? Mace said, win. They keyed the command frequency to the Republic landers. General Windu, stand by for verification and orders. Initiate simultaneous data link tight beam. The comm crackled. 7-1, here. Go ahead, General. Depa was so astonished by the order she heard Mace issue that she nearly crashed the turbo storm into a mountain. When she had finally wrestled the craft back to stability, she flipped the autopilot and faced her former master breathlessly. Are you insane? Just the opposite, Mace said. Haven't you heard? There's nothing more dangerous than a Jedi who's finally gone sane. She sputtered like a droid with a shorted-out motivator. And if you don't mind, I'd like my lightsaber back, he added apologetically. Think I'll need it. But, finally the words burst out of her. We're going to take Pellic Ba? No, said Mace Windu. We're going to take the whole system, all of it, right now. So we don't know the plan, and I know Al's all mad because he hasn't read that chapter yet, but he'll read it again. He'll get there. But it's a wonderful stopping point because we've got Mace fixed in his hope again. He's fixed in his plan. And see, when one plan falls through, he doesn't throw up his hands like Depa does. Depa's plans fell through, or she got kind of overwhelmed by the darkness of the jungle. Well,
this is just the way things are. It's the way you got to be to survive down here. You know, Mace comes in with plan after plan that, you know, a kink comes into it, or this one's not going to work. This one's not going to work. And he's going to adapt and he's going to keep going because he's not going to, as he said, believe them when they say that he's insane, you know. He's going to keep going. And he's got this great plan now, which sounds pretty ambitious, not to just save that that system or save that jungle or save that city, but to take the whole system, the whole, you know, separatist controlled system, who are using the Balawai as the base there, you know, on the planet. Excuse me. But other than that, Al, is there anything from those other chapters though that you wanted to bring back?
Well, what's the point now? I don't remember. I'm trying to figure out what's going on now.
Yeah, it was such a short patch. In fact, it kind of brings me to the fact that, you know what? And originally I was going to break up. Oops, sorry, about my mic. Originally I was going to break up what's left of the book into two readings.
I was going to suggest. I think we could kill it.
I think we need to kill the rest of it, but I don't think we are going to be able to do it next week because I've got a lot of papers to come grading on Tuesday next week. So we're going to wait 2 weeks to give people plenty of time, whoever wants to read ahead or with us, to read the rest of the book, which is like a handful of chapters left. It's a little under 100 pages, I think. It's not too much, but it is a lot. Or everything's wrapped up, tied up neatly, you know, that comes in there. So I think that's what we'll do. So we won't meet next week again because I've just got so many papers coming due that I know it's going to be a struggle to make the study at that point. But the week after that, we'll end up finishing Shatterpoint.
At least I know.
So what's that?
At least I know ahead of time.
About no study next week.
Yeah.
So yeah, not as meaty of a study tonight, just because of the chapters that we had. I didn't plan that through too well, I guess, when I was looking at quantity last week rather than what was content wise going to happen. Kind of quickly summed up. Great chapters though, and fun to read. Really fun to read. I don't know if about you, Al, but I was really, even reading it a second time this time around, I was really engrossed in the action. Just really pulled in.
Well, like I was saying when I was talking about the Dokas, and they were the effect it was having and what Mace was going through and using the Force to try to steady himself, plus save Nick from being thrown around and injured. It is well written. It's well written to a point where it does invoke a lot of stress in you, and it's so you kind of get that empathy with the characters and what they're going through.
Yeah, definitely. And it's an interesting place to be in as a reader because Mace obviously survives this. You know if you've watched the movies and stuff, books. This is just a little story of his adventure here. So on the one hand, he's got to survive. He's going to go through stuff and he's going to be changed, but he's not going to be horribly changed because you've seen him again after this point in the continuity. So how do you as a writer still instill a bit of risk and danger, a sense of danger to the reader? Well, it gives him this. We created this whole planet, created this whole system, which isn't just this new jungle planet that's created. It's also part of his backstory. So you're invested in what happens to the planet there because it's part of Mace himself. And we don't know what Deppa's, fate is after this book, as you're just reading it first way through. So you don't know, what's going to happen to the people and the new characters that you've gotten to like. Nick was so annoying at first, but he kind of becomes kind of likable, just to.
Yeah,
I don't know. How do you feel? Because you hated him too at first, right?
It took a while for me to warm up to him.
Yeah.
Once you finally figure out where his loyalties lie, and there's that one interesting. I just remember there was that one interesting section where he's pretty much given up. He's like, well, at least I'll be in the Jedi holocron. The Jedi holocron thing, and Mace is like, dude, if I don't get out of here and the thing's destroyed, that ain't gonna work. He's like, oh,
yeah, exactly.
That's right. It's like that sudden realization. It's like, oh, immortality is not exactly what
Yeah, there's a wonderful moment, which maybe it's in the chapter that I didn't tell Al to read, but Mace is jumping out of the ship. The ship is going down that they're in. And Vaster and Chuck, they've got like this parachute thing, but he doesn't have one. And he grabs Nick and he's getting ready to tell Nick what he's going to do. And Nick's like, well, I don't want to know. So he just grabs Nick and jumps out of the plane or out of the ship. And he's using the force, to kind of control their descent and stuff like that. And the whole time Nick is just like screaming obscenities and blah, blah, blah. But it's just all lost in the wind, and he finally hit ground. And Mace is like, you said you didn't want to know. So, a lot of great moments. Nick is a good character. A way to show that Nick's a metaphor for how the jungle itself can be redeemed. Everybody's talking about, it's a horrible place of survival. It changes you. That this place is the exception to all the morals and the rules and the values of the rest of the universe. So this is the worst place. Is that you really think that? I mean, again, people's. Go ahead.
And is the jungle itself, the planet itself, inherently like that, or has it become that because of the conflict?
Yeah, and that's a good question.
It's a chicken egg kind of thing.
It puts me in mind though of the speech that he gave Depa when he said the Korra and I fight the jungle. Don't tell me that that's just the way of the jungle and we just have to do this and go this way. He said, no, the Korra and I are always beating back the jungle. We're the ones that are out here trying to survive in it. The Balawai want to just live off of it and go along with it. But the Korra and I are the ones trying to survive in it. So, don't give me this argument that, it's just the way of the jungle. You fight the jungle every moment you're here. Why stop when it gets hard, for morality's sake or something, So, yeah, good stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's the plan going forward. I have a video that's dropping tomorrow, which will be a pretty good one, talking about the Rings of Power and the MCU Phase 4 cutoff kind of thing that happened and everything recently. So talk about some of that. But what's coming up on your channel? Are you still doing the classics, or are you moving on now?
I still got one more classic left this weekend. We are doing The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Earth Stood Still, that's right. Yeah.
51 classic with Gort, Klaatu, Barada, Nikto.
Cool.
And it's looking forward to that. And August, going ape in August with Rampage and the original Planet of the Apes.
That's cool. Yeah. Original. What did you think of the Tim Burton one? I know it's like nowhere near. Did you think there were any redeeming values in it? Wow. Oh, the chick was hot.
The chick was hot. The makeup was good.
The makeup was good.
Well, that's about it.
The guy that Asian guy, I forget his name, but he's in all those fun movies. He was he did a great job as one of the apes. He's the martial arts guy who was in like Mortal Kombat and all of that. I forget his name though.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I because I'm such a fan of the original, and it just, it looked good.
It's not great.
The production value, I just didn't like what they did story wise.
As a Burton fan, I like to see Burton's little take on it, but it's definitely one of those from Burton's little phase where he was just like, yeah, let's throw that against the wall and see if that sticks. He did make a handful of those movies, which. Come on, Burton. Where's your Ed Wood? Where's your Edward Scissorhands? Where's your,
it just
your Batman and Beetlejuice.
Yeah, it just I don't think it was the right project.
Yeah.
It like I said, all the pieces were there. I just it's the story is what I think let it down ultimately. Mm-hmm.
So that's coming up on Al's channel.
I can see things when they're not that great. And I know, but I also know when things are great when others don't. Mm-hmm. That's all right.
Mm-hmm. Tom Spiegel says Al's description is the same way my best friend's description describes Quantum Leap. Your friend doesn't like Quantum Leap. Who doesn't like Quantum Leap?
Quantum Leap is awesome.
I don't know about
the new one they're doing.
Oh yeah, is that even still happening? That's going to be good.
Yeah, it's still happening. Yeah, it's still happening.
Yeah, but no, classic Quantum Leap was the best.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the channel. Of course, Sound Engravers on Monday nights. Just last night did a great stream, and more to come. But any last words, Al?
No, just everybody check out my channel if you haven't already subscribed. I would love to have you be an official Al Pal. Got some great rewatches coming up and a few possible new things. Oh, and I will be most likely, I think it's next Monday, I will be a special, if it all goes through, a special guest on the Birdman's Batman show.
Oh, okay, cool.
Where I have been invited to watch a movie with a Jerry Goldsmith soundtrack that I'm sure all of you would love to hear my views on. One, Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. I got the invitation today.
Al's least favorite Star Trek film.
Yes.
All right, what about Star Trek V or Nemesis?
Oh, Nemesis. Much better.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I like Nemesis.
Okay.
I came out of Nemesis and I was thrilled.
Of course,
I loved it.
Of course.
I thought it was
what
great.
What am I thinking? Of course.
Yeah. Star Trek V, not so much.
Well, all right. So yeah, check out Al's channel. I feel like there's one more thing I was going to say, but it's gone now. So there we go. We'll be back 2 weeks again for more of this, but more content to come. Until next time, keep enjoying. Oh, stop smacking my mic during my exit there. Keep enjoying and digging.
Mic. I mean, I really, man. You are
manhandling everything.
tonight.
Bye.